Hello and welcome back to another early adopter edition. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the focus window. You don't see me bring it up a lot because it's just going to trigger a lot of questions. And I wasn't ready to get to this subject until now. So this episode is just going to touch on the focus window as it's for early adopters and it is part of our focus today. So let's get started. So I'm in the default Sparx factory layout, and we have browser on the left, we have properties in the upper right, and we have notes in the lower right. I like to work in my common layout. I've shown you all how to create your own custom workspaces. So I'm going to move to common, which is going to bring toolbox out here on the left, browser on the right, and notes in the lower right. Plus I have a lot of other windows that I use. Let's open up focus, all right? So the way to get to that is from the Start tab, Design, and you'll see here under Explore, Focus, and we're going to select it. Now for me, it pops up in the browser in the upper right, and I'm going to drag and drop this to the center for this conversation. Now, we're in our fictitious project for the fictitious company Arco, and we're going to look at the intelligence in here using focus, and we're going to step through these tabs. Again, at a high level, we'll get into this more in advanced conversations, especially when we get into UPDM. If we do, probably won't get to UPDM until we get into the SysML advanced topics. So I'm going to skip over this one for today's content. So what is the Sparx Focus window and why should you even care? Sparx Focus came out in version 15 around mid-2019, and it helps users prioritize model elements, streamline workflows, and improve visual clarity. So it was designed for new UML modelers and experienced case tool users who want to enhance diagram readability, boost productivity, and drive model-based delivery or model-driven anything. So when you first bring up the focus window, you have four areas: model views, recent, UPDM, which basically stands for the unified profile for DODAF and MODAF. DODAF is the Department of Defense Architecture Framework, and MODAF is the Ministry of Defense Architecture Framework. So these are areas we may get into, but we're not going to really focus on this one today. We'll carry it on for a much later conversation, especially when we get into advanced episodes on SysML, right? And the next one is libraries, all right? So we're going to start with model views. But before we do that, let's right-click in here and you'll see I have a quick access menu that pops up, and this creates a new search folder. Then this one creates a new favorites folder, new slideshow, new views folder, new model view, which we've talked about in this channel, and new model view index. More complicated. I'm not sure I'm going to touch on it in this. And then you can import views from XML. We're probably not going to have time to cover that. And of course, you can export views only from your instance in Sparx. And I'll probably save these for a more advanced conversation. All right. So now let's open this up. So in here, I have a solution folder. And in this solution folder, basically, you have to minimize this. And then when you open it, you get this. So new favorites. Then you type in what the favorite is. Let me just type in fave, hit OK. So you see this folder is created for you, and that's what this solution is. And here you can drag and drop your favorite diagrams. So this is titled Solution Favorites. So your stakeholders understand, well, this is a solution approach building block diagram. All right. And so that can be very quick to get to the stakeholder that you may be interested in following. Like for instance, the beginning of the effort, you're following the requirements engineer. And then after that, you're following the solution architect. And after that, design and development, testing, and so on. All right. So you can create favorites. Let me go ahead and remove this one. Remove favorites. Yes, thank you very much. And we'll go ahead and leave this one up here. The next one, if we right click in here, new search folder. Probably should have covered this one before favorites, but favorites is my favorite. And we're going to go ahead and create this, and you get this dialog box. It's just creating a new view using the Sparx search engine capabilities, even your custom work, right? So search, this is just what I'm going to put in here for this example. And you can choose from the search SQL statements that are available in Find in Project, right? And if I go down here, all the way down here, here are my custom searches. Then we go down database engineering and so on. So you have all these to choose from, all right? And what we're going to do is simple search. And then what you can do is you can put in this is optional. You can put in a search term, all right? So what we're going to do is working, just something simple, right? And then refresh this search, and then the frequency in which it refreshes, and you can set a timer. So this is real time. And then you can say, hey, I only need throughout the day, every 10 minutes or 2 hours or something like that, right? And then notify me when new results are found. And you can set up notification. If you need help, just hit help. Cover that in a more advanced session, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to hit OK. And now we have search this that's here. And you can see it's basically looking for everything with working in it, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one. Here, remove view. Thank you very much. And the one that I have in here is using one of my search SQL custom statements that's tag values by application. So it's looking for all the applications to tag values. I can right click on this and I can say, hey, I want to open this search. So I click it and open it. You can see it's running my particular SQL. So I open this up, my custom SQL I created that is looking through the applications and their tagged values. So we'll go ahead and close that, right? Now, the next one is presentation. And this one's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and minimize this one. You can right click in here, new slideshow. And if we select that, we can name our slideshow, and then we can drag and drop from the browser into that folder to run a slideshow. So what I'm going to do here, this is the Outco solution presentation, and I can right click on this. I can look at the properties and make changes on things. Like right now, it's every 5 seconds, it changes slides. You can change that to anything you want based on the pace and what you want to cover it. But let's go ahead and run this. So we're running the slideshow. You can run it in full screen. You have an audience and you're in a Zoom call or where you're showing visually, you can go in the full screen. But let's just run slideshow here. So you can see what it's doing is it's going through each one of the slides that have been brought in there every 5 seconds. And then you can right click on this and you can stop the slideshow at any particular point, right? So that's slideshow, very cool. And yeah, that's all we're going to talk about in model views. There's so much I want to talk about that goes into model views, new model view. The index is extremely powerful and so on. And the import and export capabilities to share between teams is also extremely powerful. But that's all we're going to cover in model views. Let's go down to recent. It's probably the easiest one, so we'll cover that one next. This is probably the feature you're going to use the most out of Focus if you use focused window at all. And in recent, you can look at recent elements you've been working with or the team's been working with, diagrams, documents, discussion, especially when you get into reviews. And then, of course, when we get into construction. So let's do elements first. And then you can, each one of them is the same, right? Today, 1 day back. Last 3 days, what's been going on, 7 days, 30 days, right? Let's just open the first one. So I'm going to double click it and it's going into search. And the only thing that we've worked on today is a particular requirement. Let's go 3 days back, double click it again. Nothing. And if you look up here in the search window, there's a 3 in there. Let's go 7 days. All right, in the last 7 days, we've touched these elements, right? Last 30 days, right? And lots been going on in the last 30 days. Let's go back to 3 days. And what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the SQL. So in here, you can see what the SQL is doing. It's accessing the T-object table, and it's looking at the modified date now, which is today, minus whatever's in here. So today, back 3 days, right? And so it'll populate 7 and so on, right? So the next one is diagrams. So today, what diagrams have we touched? So we've looked at these 2 diagrams, solution and the requirements, right? So I'm going to go ahead and close the SQL window, and it helps you understand the SQL. Let's look at documents. Nothing's been going on. Let's go 30 days. Nothing's been going on with documents, right? Let's look at discussions. If you're in a team, this is a demo instance here, and there's not any discussions. Even 30 days back, I have not demoed using this project. So, but if you're in a team environment and you want to look and see what discussions have taken place, this is extremely powerful because it's kind of hard, especially if you take a vacation, you want to come back and say, hey, what has everyone been talking about? So we can look at the SQL. It's a quick way to learn how to break out the SQL yourself, modify and create your own custom SQL. All right, let's go ahead, minimize this, close Find in Project, and we're going to move this back over to the upper right-hand side here. And I'll talk about UPDM in much later session, and we'll talk about libraries when we get to model library. So you come up here, we're in the Start tab, Model Library. You can build out your own model library where I touch on that one, and we're going to come back to it for more advanced conversations at a later point. All right. So what we're going to do next is we're actually going to go to Focus. I'm going to close Model Library, Focus, and recent's pretty self-explanatory, so we don't need to get into that. What we're going to do is create a slideshow. So with our focus window in the upper right here, we're going to go to model views. We're going to right click and we get a quick access menu for model views. And notice that if you happen to be on recent, you right click, you don't get anything. UPDM, you just get help. With libraries, you edit your connection, your SQL connection to libraries, but we'll cover that one later. Today, we are working on a slideshow. So we're going to right click in here and we are going to go down to new slideshow. And as soon as you do that, you get this dialog where you're going to enter the name. And let's just call this design slideshow, right? We're going to hit OK. Right? And then when you do that, you can see it expands model views. And we have something in here called design slideshow. What we're going to do here is there's nothing in this, completely empty. When you right click on it, run slideshow, but there's nothing to run. So how do you create a slideshow? Well, first you need to have some models that are up here. And we've talked about working sets. I'm going to go to our library where working sets are. This is on design. So we're going to use our design working set. And by the way, working set element looks something like this. All I did was right click on it and I changed the appearance and I added an alternate image. Just happens to be my logo. All right. So we're going to go ahead and double click and open up. And now our working set is open. All right. So in order to do this, you need to bring your browser separate from your window or vice versa. Right. So here's focus. Here's browser. I'm going to make this a little larger here. Something like that. That's fine. And let's go to close this. Our first diagram. I don't need this. We're going to close that. We're going to start with this diagram. All right. So this is our first slide. All right. We're going to right click in here, find in browser. Look at that. It's right here. We're going to drag and drop this to our design slideshow under this folder. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one. The next one, tag values, all right? Right click, find in browser. It was the next item. Drag and drop this over, let go, and there it is, all right? Go ahead and close this one. And our next one is the requirements analysis that was used for solution and design. We're going to right click in here, find in browser, and here it is right here. Drag and drop it to our slideshow, and there it is added. All right, let's go ahead and close the browser. We'll bring it back in just a moment and close this diagram here. All right, so now we have our slideshow ready to run. All right, so what I'm going to do here is, well, let me go to my common workspace layout to bring browser back. I brought the browser out. You can certainly go design, focus here to get to the focus window. I happen to have it in something called common full, where I have both focus and model library that are quick access. All right, let's run this slideshow. So I closed focus. What we're going to do is go back over here, look for focus, goes right to the window. Here is our slideshow for design. I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to run the slideshow and just take all the defaults. So requirements analysis, 5 seconds, goes into tag values to talk about the effort and all of that. And then it goes into the block diagram for continued conversation. So pretty simple slideshow. It's just in the 3, and then you can see it ends, so all in 5 seconds. And again, you can right click in here, go to properties, and you can change the timing of what's taking place and more. Congratulations, you just did your first focus item. But please post questions down below in comments, all right? I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. So when you have the focus window, we've just been focusing, no pun intended, on this one tab here. You go to working sets, here's all of your working sets that you've inventoried across your project. When you go to quick find, you have the ability to look for things. I keyed in the search term building and it found diagrams with building in them. And then you have revisit. So when you're working all day in something, or you're going through your various focus items, this allows you to look at everything that you've been focused on, you've been working on in a particular time, right? So very quickly get to the things that you've been doing recently. You step away for a meeting or lunch, and you can come back to revisit anything that might have changed between those times. So that's going to be it for this session. We'll be talking much more and using focus window as well as model library in later discussions. I look forward to getting to those topics with you. Again, post questions and concerns down below. Let me know what issues you're having. Are you even using focus? All right. Do you think this is important? I don't think Sparx keeps their content, their intelligence between versions up to date. And there's not a lot of searching or finding intelligence on this out there. So I'll try to make things clearer for you as you advance your own modeling capabilities. So until that next episode, happy modeling.